Okay, David, did you want to kick off the introductions?
Absolutely. Good morning, everybody. My name is David Henderson Begg, and I started Labyrinth Technology over 20 years ago now with a goal of providing first-class IT support and solutions to businesses of all shapes and sizes in the London area. And I won't name names, but I'm actually really pleased to see one of my first clients on the call today who will remember when I was running around the City of London doing this on my own. And wow, hasn't technology changed in the last 20 years? One great example that I can think of is the iPhone. And the first iPhone was only launched in 2007. And just think how the Apple ecosystem has developed in that 17 years. And then extrapolate that to AI, the nascent AI technology that we are seeing today. Just imagine what we are going to have in another 15 years. And that's why we wanted to create this webinar, to show some of our friends and colleagues and businesses that we work with just what is possible today and maybe a glimpse of what might be possible in the future. I'm very lucky now that I don't have to run around the City of London on my own. I've got a really great team backing me up. And so I'm now going to hand over the difficult bit to my number two, Matthew Dunn.
Yes, hi everyone. My name is Matthew and I'm the CTO at Labyrinth Technology. I've been leading our technology and IT service delivery at Labyrinth for a decade now. As David said, we set this webinar up to help small businesses cut through the noise with AI. There are a lot of people running talks on why you should use AI, but not a lot of practical demonstrations that help you understand real world use cases, how AI is actually going to help you as a small business. So that's what we're here to do today. And I will now hand over to our Microsoft AI specialist, Tom Welton.
Wonderful. Thank you, Matthew. Hello and good morning. Thank you all for hopping on. My name is Tom Welton. As mentioned there, kind of a Microsoft and AI specialist. Despite my accent being a little bit from west of here, I am just talking to you from Bristol, is where I've called home for the last 4 years. So very much in country here, working with a lot of things regarding Microsoft, but also security that we'll talk about today. So I think that's something with AI that we need to keep in the back of our mind is how does that work from a security perspective? A lot of you out there are leaders within your own business. This is your intellectual property and your data. Is that secure and leveraging some of these large language models? And how does it work in Copilot? So that's what we'll be talking about today. And without further ado, we do have kind of a jam-packed agenda here today. So I will share out my screen and we'll jump right in. This is not meant to be death by PowerPoint, but I do have a few things up front. But a majority of today will be just covering a live demonstration, as mentioned there, talking you through, showing you what this is going to look like using this in a day-to-day capacity with your existing kind of Microsoft technologies and some of those core applications. So I've got my screen shared out there. It should be coming across to everybody. Little bit of an agenda there. So just talking about what it is, live demonstration, putting together a little bit of a roadmap as well. And so this will be useful for any AI adoption. So not just specific to Microsoft technologies, but ultimately, what does your strategy look like as a business in the next 3 years, 5 years, even shorter timeframes than that, just because this technology is rapidly evolving. I think that introduction with the iPhone was actually a great setup for this next slide, just to progress and talk about why AI is such a big deal. This is the race to 100 million users. So we can see right there the mobile phones that took about 16 years. Internet came onto the scene, rapid adoption of that, and then Facebook, the first of many social media platforms, under 5 years, but still, we're talking a year timeframe for 100 million users. Chat GPT, 3 months for that. And even if anybody's familiar with GPT and the versioning, that was 3.0. And so we're currently on 4.0 today. We're a whole version ahead of that. And when that released, existing GPT users upgraded to that in 3 days, actually, is the updated stat. So we're near vertical here in the adoption. This is something that is being used by hundreds of millions of people around the world, not just for, again, social media and things out there, but also commercially and inside of our businesses. So what is this Copilot thing? So I did want to kind of put this big wheel of Microsoft here in front of you. We certainly won't go through everything on this wheel here today, but I wanted to let you know that this is a Microsoft product, and they're very much all in on a company into this technology. And so Microsoft Copilot does run the GPT engine. So if you're familiar with Chat GPT or you're potentially using it, this is the GPT technology. But then it's safely secured within Microsoft. And so that GPT engine will be specific to your Microsoft tenant or your Microsoft account, as we would call it there. And then kind of a very non-technical term, it's a closed AI. We hear a lot about things like open AI, and every time we use something like GPT, or potentially if your employees are using GPT, you're feeding that engine data, you're training it to make smarter. Potentially you're giving away things to your competitors, or you're uploading your own intellectual property. Potentially there's some security and compliance concerns as well about attaching documents to reference or go through that may contain personal details that we want to be wary of. That's why Copilot is such a great option for businesses. This allows us to house everything in something that is specific only to your tenant. Not even Microsoft will be able to access your various prompts and the data in there. So it's a very locked down and secure solution. But just wanted to give you kind of a size and scope here of what Microsoft's generative AI assistant is, and really them going all in as a business themselves for this technology. Scoping this down into a little bit more manageable terms as to what exactly Copilot is. As I mentioned there, it's that GPT engine. It does contain video generation or image generation through the DALL-E software. So if you had GPT create a picture, it's just using that DALL-E engine. The context, you can think about just that large language model is kind of a brain, but what does the brain know? Well, it's everything on the internet that it can access. And then it's your own Microsoft tenant. And so you can really simplify things by thinking of your Microsoft account as just a big folder. And then within your account, you've even got little folders like your SharePoint site, or your personal OneDrive for your own storage that contains your documents and your data. This would allow you to effectively increase the knowledge of that GPT engine by attaching those knowledge sources. And we'll go through today and see how we can leverage that to our benefit as we get into the live demo. Here's just a short little video. I'll kind of narrate along there, just kind of discussing that in a little bit more detail about what that looks like. That large language model, of course, being the GPT. But with Copilot, we can talk to it like it's a person. We can use natural language in our prompting, as we call it. Those are the inputs in order to get things. Sometimes it can be used for search, but ultimately it's going to return that informed response. And then just as well, just to kind of put some technology out there, it uses something on the back end called the Microsoft Graph, or the Graph API. You can think of this as simply the spider web of connections that interconnects between all of your applications. And so that we can fit right there in the middle of that web as a single user. And we can access our messages in either Teams and Outlook. We can go into our meetings in Outlook. We can get chat. We can get different file shares from different things that we're talking about, and centralize that information rather than hopping around from application to application. Just talking a little bit more, didn't want to get too deep into the licensing aspect of what this is, but just kind of showing again the horizon of things out there. Today, we're predominantly going to focus on the M365 or the Microsoft 365, just because that's relevant to all of us. I imagine 100% of people on this call have a mailbox. So things like that being included, Teams, Outlook, PowerPoint. But did just want to maybe touch a little bit for some of you that might be maybe looking for more advanced workloads and advanced kind of specific use cases of AI. You can see that there's a couple of different flavors there, but the one that I'm kind of seeing come up again and again with other businesses that I speak to, Copilot Studios, the one that I'll put on your radar. So again, if you're familiar with GPT, you know that you can go out there and find those very custom purpose-built GPTs, kind of with an S on the end of it. That's what Copilot Studios is the Microsoft version of a very bespoke Copilot, very scoped in knowledge base, and very kind of bespoke answers and responses. And so we use that for things in sales, customer service. I think my next slide, has a couple of different templates that exist right out there. It is certainly much more customizable than what we're looking at there. Apologize for kind of a text-heavy slide here, but those are just a couple of the things to get started with at the very basic level of what Studios is doing. The weather application, that's an easy one to talk about. It's actually snowing here in Bristol, if you can believe it or not. I'm looking out my window here. It's snowing out there, but potentially checking the weather app for flights or travel to see what's going on. So perfect. To jump in a little bit, again, why does it matter? Why do we critically need AI in our business? Microsoft has identified kind of a huge issue in this through their work trend index. This is a study that they do, and you can see there from many thousands of people across the world, leveraging M365 kind of metadata, LinkedIn as a Microsoft company, and then even academic research with papers. And they've come up with a few very interesting stats that I'll share with you here. So digital debt is a buzzword that I'll present to you. We can see the numbers on the screen there, but that middle one is the concern right there. So 57% of my time, your employees' time, is spent in that coordination effort of emails, chats, and meetings. We're connected to so many people and so many applications that we're being crushed by this digital debt. And then if you're kind of keen-eyed and seeing the bottom of the screen there, that was the 2023 numbers. They ran that again in May of this year. And we can see that this is unfortunately trending in a negative direction. We're up to 60%. 3 out of 5 hours of my time that I was hired to do is spent in the coordination of my job. And I'm just down to that, that stat on the right side there. 40% of my time is actually spent creating and doing what I was hired to do for my particular role. Last bit of stats and figures. I won't go through all this. I apologize for the heavy numbers here, but these are some very important findings. And I did want to share the 3 on the right side there that we focus in on for you guys as business leaders and owners, especially here on today's call. So you can see there at the top, 19 out of 20. And this is Microsoft using this internally, kind of a customer zero approach is where this survey came from. So 19 out of 20 said they'd be disappointed without it. Yeah, that's skewed a little bit. Microsoft is a technology company by default, but the next 2 are interesting, and that 4 out of 5 would not want to go back to working without it. And then very important out there, if you're the leader of the business, if you're in any kind of hiring position where you're working with new folks coming into your business, that bottom right stat is something to definitely take note of. Nearly half of people say that this would influence their choice of employer. And we have to think about that from 2 different aspects, the retention of our existing employees and our existing talents, and then ultimately attracting that next generation, the students graduating from university that are looking for their first jobs, maybe looking at you, potentially maybe some of your competitors. Part of that decision-making process for them is going to be whether or not the employer is offering some kind of AI capability. And so, very, very interesting to note that as kind of being a influencing choice of employers there. So let's talk about the elephant in the room. I like this slide here. We got a nice bright pink elephant. This is a big one. This is a topic of conversation all around the world. Am I in danger here? Is this potentially the end of my job? Do I need to maybe reduce my staff here and look at AI solutions? What we would go ahead and say is no. That's what you guys probably expected me to say on a call like this. But I am a human being. You guys are human beings. You live in the real world out there. So we will put an asterisk on it there. We will put a little bit more nuance to it and then dive a little bit deeper into what I mean by no, not quite yet there. So taking a more nuanced look at things, we'll look at maybe 3 school of thoughts here and see where we settle up. There's the misconception that's what maybe we see on the media of, the AI is going to replace us. And my job, my seat in this chair is replaceable by a fully automated AI solution. I definitely do not think that's the case. I don't think we're even years close to something like that happening, but I was pretty sure this next one was the right answer. So I will fully admit about 8-9 months ago, I was pretty sure that this was the correct answer, that the AI might not take my job. But my colleague sitting next to me, that person might adopt AI faster than I can adopt AI, and they might outcompete me for my job. Or if I'm applying for another company, the applicant that knows AI tools might be able to get in a little bit ahead of me. And Truly, I was kind of in this team here, but realistically, in talking about this and seeing this technology grow across kind of the small to medium-sized businesses here in the United Kingdom, last couple of, or just not even couple of years, the last year, as this technology is so new, this is what we're seeing as far as the outcome going. This is the workload shift. Again, going back to that introduction example of the iPhone kind of coming in and changing society as we know it. We all have smartphones, whether that's an Android or an iPhone at the moment, we all had to do that. And the same thing goes with the search engine as another example. We all know how to, Google and use Bing things very effectively. And we don't even think twice about using a search engine nowadays. Cutting through maybe some of the advertisements or SEO that we see on that. Those will be the AI skills that we as a whole population will develop together. And then, I have to put a little bit of the burden on you as decision makers, as business leaders, as business owners on the call here. This is up to you to navigate the shift for yourself, but more importantly, your business and your employees. And so, with that comes maybe just, a little bit of things in boosting the quality and not just that pure quantity effect, making it more effective rather than chasing efficiencies and trying to cut down on certain costs. And then resilience is a huge word that we use on a daily basis in our industry. Can it survive a rocky period or someone leaves the business? Can we, effectively continue forward and not just look at pure cost reduction? And we know that can be tough to look at sometimes with the economic climate. But again, it's a team effort. It's a community effort. That's what, Labyrinth and the team is very much here to help us all navigate through that. Talk a little bit about the value here and then just a couple more slides before jumping in. But again, the economics have to make sense. That's pillar one here. And what we see is kind of the 4 value adds. Time saved is what maybe people think about with AI. Easily measurable, the amount of time saved as an employee for me to summarize my inbox, catch up on Teams meetings, be double booked and just get instead of watch a recording, take 5 minutes to read the summary and see my action items. Those results are tangible and easily read, but realistically, what else kind of benefit can I get from something like a Copilot? Quality of work, that new angles and perspectives is very interesting. Anybody on today's call is going to be human. And if we all took notes, we would all have different notes because we've got different experience, different bias. Having a non-human note taker is very interesting. It really does just record that summary and present the action items as it was said. And giving you things to focus on there. Skill development. This is an amazing one there. I'll show you guys in the demo today some use cases from Microsoft Excel. Spreadsheets, and I would say bridging the skill gap. And so if you're a little hesitant in Excel and you're always heading onto the, onto Google or onto YouTube to look up how do I do X, Y, Z in Excel, this is something where Copilot can just get that done from a plain language prompt. And then ultimately as well, culture is a big thing, keeping ourselves happy, keeping our employees and our company having a good, happy work environment. This allows us to get a little bit more breathing room at either the end of the day, the end of the week, the beginning of the day, coming in on a Monday morning and not having to sift through a big inbox or prepare for the day, but offloading some of that admin work to the AI is something that just brings a little bit of quality of life and takes some of that pressure off in that day-to-day use. Now we'll talk a little bit about prompting. I wanted to teach you something here. I think this is very aptly named here for the United Kingdom, but this is Microsoft's GCSE framework. So something that may sound familiar to you. What we can see there, it's the goal, context, source, and expectations. I made that analogy about Googling things. Right now, if I ask you all to go tell me something about maybe Cyber Essentials as a security scheme, you would all hop on Google and you would do it without thinking twice. You would navigate through the adverts. You would find the .gov website, you can find good information on, and you wouldn't think twice about that. We're going to have to develop those skills and those muscles in speaking to the AI. And I think if you can remember this acronym is a really great starting point. What am I trying to achieve? The context is I'm preparing for a meeting. I'm doing my weekly sync with my team. I'm presenting to board. That source. I only want you to look in email, or go ahead and look in email in Teams, or only look in this certain SharePoint site for these certain assets. And then those expectations, make it formal, make it not formal, turn it into a poem. Works great for culture and feedback, but how do I present that language? And this can give you a really good way if you're not quite sure where to get started with some of those prompting aspects. And I'll even dive a little bit deeper and show you kind of good, better, best as far as prompting goes. And kind of day one and using something like a Copilot or GPT, you're going to default to that top left. You're going to do what are my actions tomorrow? Just tell me about today, or tell me about tomorrow. And we can see in the bottom left application of that GCSE framework. So look through just my Outlook and my Teams, summarize what I did today and any leftover actions, help prepare me for tomorrow, and sprinkle in a little bit of formatting in there just because I don't want a big blob of text. I'd like something that actually looks visually appealing for me to look at. The thing on the right side of the screen, I certainly won't read. You guys can all read there, but that's the next level prompt. That's where we really see this technology going, and kind of its pinnacle is being able to drop something like that, architect something like that for your role on something you're doing on a daily or a weekly or a monthly task, and having the AI go out there and do something about it. So one of my colleagues put this prompt into his actual schedule. We've removed PII and things like that. So I wanted to show you what the output of Copilot was on that prompt on the right side. And there it is. And so this was something that was surprising for me the first time I saw it. I thought we could only get maybe a couple of paragraphs back, but you can see a really well architected prompt, pulling data from multiple sources. It's able to put a good amount of formatting in there and organization. I can see internal, external, personal appointments if those are in my work calendar. And even those little numbers on the right side of the details, those are shortcuts. And so if I'm curious about something, I may go ahead and click on that just to dive deeper and really look at the notes for that meeting that I've got coming up. And then even so on the bottom of the screen, we've got a summary of the summary, just letting us know that, yep, it's a very busy day. We're going to be talking about Copilot. Make sure you take breaks or go for a walk, or take a break at this time of day because your whole afternoon is back to backs and you're a little bit busier. So thought that was a great example of what this is going to look like in the output. And I can confirm as a personal user, I use this one every single day at the end of my day. It kind of wraps things up for me and then just, sets me straight for tomorrow. And I know exactly what I'm getting into. Last up, before I hop into the demo here, I just wanted to show you a huge plethora of possibilities here for what we can achieve in Copilot. I'm going to go through some of these applications here today. It's going to be a little bit of a whistle-stop tour just because there's so much that you can do with this. But I will park this on the screen just for a couple more seconds to kind of let you maybe look through these applications that you might be heavily using on a daily basis and maybe have not thought about how AI can impact that or where that could benefit you in your role. A hugely one that kind of changed my life was the Outlook one at the top, the follow meetings I can't attend. Right now I'm on an external meeting working with you guys and happy to be here. But, if I internally maybe have a recurring meeting, somebody books me for something and they need me on a different meeting, I can now send my Copilot on my behalf. That works identical to currently recording meetings in Teams. So from a privacy and data perspective, what that means is that all the recipients are notified that, hey, Copilot is in here, it's transcribing. But instead of going back and watching that hour-long recording, or even being clever and clicking it up to 2 times speed and watching a half-hour recording, I can spend 5 to 10 minutes reading a nice summary of everything that was discussed in kind of big bullet points and key topics broken out. And even action items are also broken out. And so, Tom, it was mentioned that you need this report to get in by Friday, or my colleague Jono may need to have something prepared for next week. And it'll even list out those action items below it. But lots of really great things going on inside of there. So we'll touch on a couple of these here going forward. And I believe it's time to hop into the live demo. So give me just a couple of seconds here to prepare, and I'll reshare my screen here and we'll jump into a demo of some of these applications. All right, so you guys should be seeing my very vintage screensaver there, celebrating 30 years next year, my favorite operating system. But what we'll do is we'll go ahead and jump into a couple of applications. And so first up is going to be maybe Microsoft Word, simple Word document processing. This very much works for existing documents. But what this looks like in my day-to-day is the Copilot will add additional features just to your existing ribbons. And you'll see something like the Copilot drafting button here. And then I can input a prompt, and then I can reference a file. This has been hugely valuable for people that are maybe updating internal documentation or updating policies. You can attach up to 3 files here to the reference. And that does include PDF format. So if you do have documentation or things stored in PDF, Copilot is able to read those. But things that I've seen are people updating their AI policies for the first time. So maybe creating those, updating HR documentation, internal cultural things, potentially on the sales side, if you're putting out maybe bids or tenders or things like that to your clients, reference this golden image of a bid and a tender, and here's 2 more really good ones, and then architect a new one based off of that kind of blueprint that I've given you. And so what I can do is maybe generate something from scratch. How well I can type here today. And you're seeing I'm being very specific as well about kind of what I'm wanting to do there, and include some examples across maybe different industries for that. Kind of a self-fulfilling prompt here that I'm using, but just wanted to show you the power of the generation and how quickly it can achieve things. And again, this isn't going to override and take anybody's job. It didn't complete the full job for me. I, as a human, still have to verify what has been created. And then I do have to go in and, triple check things. It maybe gets me 80% of the way there. So looks like it's got me maybe 2 pages of documentation, a couple of industries about that. It's even opened up a couple of key features. Great. That looks like it's pretty good. But again, I can, manipulate even key parts of the data. So I can highlight certain features there. Go back to my Copilot button. I can just have it regenerate that. If I don't like the way it was written, it'll generate something new every time. Or I can make some changes. And so I'm going to make some changes and just say add more, make this longer. So again, I don't have to specify certain things in there. Natural language processing is how that technology works. And so we really can just speak to it like it's a human. And it's getting smarter and smarter every day about doing that. So again, that iPhone comparison, or even the scroll wheel iPod back in the day to the technologies that we have here, now you can see just how many additional features it's been able to expand on inside of these, and really giving me some good content in there. I will address the bottom kind of underlying there between the S's and Z's, and the spelling differences between the United Kingdom and maybe the American culture there. These settings can be configured for United Kingdom spelling, so I can confirm that. There's just a couple of different ways to do that. Unfortunately, my organization just has limited that for my own kind of demo set here. Now I'm going to click on the Copilot button on the top right. So again, this maybe works for existing documentation. If you're trying to catch up with somebody or prepare for something and you just don't have time to read everything, let's maybe summarize what I'm looking at here. So I can pull open, even several hundred pages of documents. I'm only looking at 3 here for the summarization, but just seeing what it's able to pull together. And I do like that it at least tells me what it's looking at there, whether it's looking at things. You'll see there during certain aspects of other applications, it updates you along the way. So we're not just sitting there watching a, hopefully slow progress bar. Nothing has ever gone wrong in a live demo before, so we'll hopefully get the summary put across here. Maybe give that just a couple more seconds. Usually just goes, from a user perspective, it typically is able to achieve this in about 5 seconds or less. Of course, yep, potentially. There we go. So maybe I just had to think just a little bit about that. And hopefully my internet here is coming across at a good rate for us. There we go. So now we're starting to get a couple of summary type things there. Again, I think this might be dependent on my internet connection rather than how quickly Copilot can get this done, typically much, much faster. And while it's doing that, what I can talk about that in this breakdown of the summary, again, this could be dozens or even hundreds of pages, I can see reference points as to what's going on. So, okay, cool. That, it integrates with Power BI. Where did it find that information? So I can click there and you can see it's highlighted the reference in the document to that certain thing. So I don't need to go in there with that Control F or that find function to go through and look at certain things. Now I can, get the summary and then jump right to the report or right to the document that I need to get to inside of it. Great. So it looks like it's got that all in place. You can see even a nice quality of life user button there to copy paste that if I need to. And then I can, manipulate the document as a whole. I can make it formal. I can make it casual, make it shorter, make it longer. Rewrite this for a technical audience, rewrite this for a non-technical audience, a lot of different ways that I can present this information. But yeah, just to stay on time and make sure I do get through the applications, we'll maybe hop off of Word here and look at a couple of other documentation. So just to show you exactly what I'm doing, I've got this saved to my OneDrive. Seems to work a little bit better with Copilot if that is saved somewhere either on the OneDrive and the SharePoint. And all I'm going to do is come up here to the share and I'm going to copy the link. So I'm just going to put the link that links to this document into my clipboard just to kind of showcase what I've done there. So got that all set and good to go. So I will close that out. And I'll maybe hop onto another application here that, potentially you do spend a lot of time in and maybe you don't as well. But here's a couple of things from PowerPoint and how Copilot can affect that. So first thing I'll do is just click here to just make a kind of a net new PowerPoint come alive. Again, I've got the autosave on. And this can be used in conjunction with existing PowerPoint technologies. And so, seeing some very powerful things here come alive very quickly. I'll open up my Copilot. I can generate from a file, which I'll do, but I can also just generate a presentation from scratch. And I can even understand certain things. So if you're looking at a PowerPoint and somebody sends you something, you can get some information about it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to click from File. You can see that it kind of auto-populated the prompt. This big long URL is just that SharePoint document you can see there that comes from my clipboard. And I'm going to hit Go. So I'm going to have to just create a presentation based off of that Word document that I just created. So you can see there again, it's telling me exactly what I'm doing. It's making sure it can find the file, and there it goes. And so now it's drafting the presentation. It's even giving me the outline of it. So I've got maybe key features and then using it in small businesses just because it was a relatively simple prompt. It's even adding speaker notes into that. So if you're somebody that has to type their own speaker notes and generate it, can be a little difficult sometimes. Great. And so it does add pictures from time to time. Looks like, I've got a few in there, but wow, this one really took into the content. So I've got 23 slides that have now been created about this, kind of opening, main body, and closing things, a little bit of an agenda. But again, this doesn't look great. I don't really want to present this right away. Adding a little bit of your own flavor to this is what I would recommend. And so if you come to the design feature, and this is a non-Copilot resource, this is available on PowerPoint right now, even without Copilot, you can come to these themes that you can add, hit this bottom down arrow here. And if you have company branding, if you have your own branding kind of set up, put that into a PowerPoint template. Put your logos, your icons, the various themes of that branding, and you can actually save that as a specific brand. And kind of the overall use case is that you generate the presentation, and then you're able to click on your brand. Now you're seeing that I'm able to apply a little bit of a brand. Let's maybe get something that looks a little bit more, we can go with a purple on this one. But, I've got a couple of things in there. These slides are looking really uniform, so maybe I want to change it up. The designer feature on the right side here is very intelligent. And all of a sudden I can just, in one click, update the security and compliance. And now that looks a lot better. And then maybe go down to the workflows, see if it's got a couple of ideas. And so using this design feature can really add a lot to a PowerPoint in a very kind of quick fashion and just make it a little bit better. Again, it's got 80% of the work done, but certainly, something for me to go in there and triple check to make sure that everything's all right. But I like doing that. I like coming in and putting the finishing touches on it. The main body of this is built out, and I know that it's got good structure inside of it. So I can come in and maybe redesign some of this just to look a little bit nicer. It looks like I might have to architect that one separately. But, hopefully you guys are starting to see the power of, Copilot not existing on an island on itself, but enhancing the Microsoft tools that you guys were already using internally. And then just to keep on time as well, we will hop over to another favorite application. Excel, I believe, is everybody's favorite office application. I say that a little tongue in cheek, as I'm not a daily Excel user. But here we can see I've got just a simple Excel formula. So today, kind of prefacing up front, I'm going to go through a couple of very basic examples. Some of you out there might be Excel wizards or Excel gurus. I do want to confirm to you that Copilot does do the upper end of Excel. And what I mean by that is if you're leveraging things like Python or Visual Basic inside of Excel, Copilot does support that. So it can help you script out those very kind of near dev level applications. But just for the purposes of today's call, talking a little bit more about just typical transformation. So keyboard shortcut of the day. This is a great one. Write it down on a sticky note if you're not familiar with it. Control T. If you selected a cell, Control T will open up the table function. One click. And now I've, manipulated that data to look a lot nicer. I've got column headers across the top there. I can put various filters on already, and already my data is looking a little bit better. I'll come back to my home button, and you can see now I've got Copilot. So again, once you get familiar with this, it becomes a very necessary button. I agree with that earlier Microsoft slide about kind of being in dismay if I lost access to this technology. And we can see there on the right side, it's going to do certain things like, suggest a formula column. I know this isn't the most complex data set there, but maybe we'll see if it's able to look at these maybe 6 columns that I've got there and suggest anything in particular that I might want to add to that based on the data. So looking into that, it's come into here and it's proposed I'm going to add something called years since release. Again, if you are familiar with Excel, writing that function out, I can copy paste that as well to maybe other workbooks I'm working on. And then this is a very nice feature. You can see I'm not clicking on it. I'm just hovering over. And then in the center of the page, we can see where I can add that column. Not ultimately a tremendously useful column there. It looks like just 3 or 4 years from this particular release of this limited set. But some of those insights can be very inspirational. And I think that's the takeaway, is that you don't really know how you want to present that data. The Excel Copilot can definitely give you some inspiration on it. But maybe took a couple more. Maybe I have to present some of this data either to my team or to my leadership or a board or something like that. Show me a data insight, show me something visual about this that maybe I wouldn't necessarily come to create on my own, or it again might have to hop on Google or YouTube to figure out how to do this myself. Price by brand. Okay, that kind of sounds interesting. We'll add this to a new sheet. So it's going to leave my original data alone. It's created a new sheet. And all of a sudden now it's created a nice little, horizontal bar chart there. And I can tell very clearly that those Apple products, kind of change the game, are going to be the most expensive. And then this is a pivot table as well. So it's created a nice pivot table of the data that it's used in that particular metric. One other one as well that I've done is kind of, you can add a single insight to the grid. This, I think, is one of the most powerful buttons in all of Copilot. And I really mean that. And add all insights to grid. So just go for it, AI. Pull out any kind of relations you can and show me a lot of different ways to present this data. We can see my price by USD brand, but now there's an interesting one about country of origin and kind of where the country of origin of these certain products are going. Again, the AI is not going to be perfect, so some of these may not mesh or be entirely logical, but then that's a lot easier for me to go through and kind of pick the ones that I like and then present that data. And again, giving us the full source. We can't have beautiful graphics and data without being able to prove it. So here we can reference that through those pivot table sources for these particular charts. And I can even say that just after doing this for a couple of months, my Excel has increased and my confidence has increased. And then even things that you might be familiar with up at the top, or you're trying to maybe get some of your employees to utilize a little bit more, we can speak to it in plain language. And so we can see the pricing column here isn't formatted correctly. And I apologize for, I'll just use USD because that's in the column header, but GBP or Euro, of course. Well, I can ask it for something simple, like just a currency conversion. So, format the price column to USD. And again, it's going to tell me, okay, if I've understood you correctly, we're going to format this particular column and kind of slap that $ on top of it. So great. That looks a little bit better transformed. But maybe I'm trying to make this, again, more visually appealing. I'd like to maybe take a look at some of the insights, just because some of these numbers are very large, some are very small. I'd like to look at that in a little bit better one. This is an absolutely brilliant use case here for range of numbers. Price USD red, yellow, green. Conditional formatting is what I'm doing here. So we'll do a red, yellow, green conditional formatting, and we'll see what it's able to return here for me. Great. So it looks like it wants to do that, and not just using 3 colors, but a nice color kind of scale and a gradient here is what it's going to apply. So that looks great. And all of a sudden, yeah, you saw me kind of start with 6 blank columns, and now I've got kind of good looking data. I've added a, hopefully relevant column to increase on that. And then I can see very clearly here, the darker green products are more expensive. I could reverse these colors as well. So maybe highlighting the ones that are more economical, like this Google Nest thing looks like it's, kind of clocking in on the lower end of the economics. But that's very visually apparent to me now in looking at this data. So lots of different ways that we can transform this. By no means is this a comprehensive look at Excel, but the range, goes from the very simple, such as a currency conversion, up to and including Python and Visual Basic scripting. And so I really think we're just at the kind of surface level and the tip of the iceberg for what we're able to leverage out of Excel with this. Great. And then I'm going to move on just to a couple more things here to make sure we keep on track. I apologize. I've thrown a ton at you here, but 2 more that we'll talk about are going to be our communications. And so let's start out maybe with Outlook. And so, the emails and things. And again, a little bit of a disclaimer. This is a very tough technology for us to demonstrate to you guys. I am using my own real environment, so I'd like to keep things just a little bit more private from things on my end, but I can certainly show you a couple of applications. And so this is my Outlook. You can see the way that the Copilot will integrate as a button on the left side. So I've got, my calendar, my mailbox, and then the Copilot button. And what I'm looking at the screen here is, again, I'm that central user with those graph connections into every other application that I have. And then you can see even over time, it's used some things that, it's kind of reading me as a user, and it says, stay informed. What's the latest from Daisy Pike? She is actually my manager. And so it's saying that maybe I'd like to catch up on any emails, chats, or files that she has shared with me so that I'm prepared for a one-on-one conversation with her. Prepare for that meeting. It looks like me and a gentleman named Andy will be syncing up sometime later today. So prepare me for that sync. And that's relevant to me. That's very useful for me to do. Also, you might know that I, see that the web search is turned off. I just wanted to kind of note how that works. And so down here at the bottom, I've got my plugins. And you can see here whether or not web content would be enabled or disabled. So whether I'd like to pull information from the World Wide Web in a good or sometimes a bad format, or I can click off that web functionality and display things just from my SharePoint, or scope it in even further, things just from my OneDrive. And then very much so, this works similar to any social media you've ever used, LinkedIn, Twitter. You can kind of @ or hashtag certain people, files, or put things there and chain together multiple prompts. And so a lot of great use cases there. Again, apologies, it's a tough product to demonstrate. A huge one for you that we were kind of talking about before the call was summarizing the inbox. Don't just summarize my inbox. Summarize my inbox. Tell me the priority emails. Tell me about any emails that I haven't replied to that I need to, and go ahead and draft responses to those emails that I need to apply. So you can see if I start chaining together prompts, I start leveling up the way that my prompt does. I go from A to B, which the references A, and I do C, which references B, and then I go forward with that. I can really string together some very cool metrics. But another application is sending those emails. And so I just want to show you kind of 2 pieces of what that looks like. One of my colleagues here is, his name's Jono. So I'm going to throw him under the bus here with a very emotional email. So I do not feel about this at all about Jono, but I just want to show you how Copilot's going to flag this. And so I've written him kind of an angry email here. I need those TPS reports. I still don't see them. Where are they? You promised me. The rest of the team is waiting, and sometimes that emotion comes into the game. I very much empathize with that. I had a hospitality background before technology. I know what it's like sometimes to maybe mirror that emotion, but we can't do that in a professional capacity. So what I'll do here now is come up to Copilot on a new email, and I'm going to use Coaching by Copilot. This has made me extremely thoughtful about the way that I write emails, not just internally, but definitely externally as well. We have to maintain that professional tone in the world of business. I'll extend this a little bit. So tell me to be more positive. It's kind of calling me out for being a bit of a jerk, and rightfully so. So instead of saying it's sent immediately, send those as soon as possible. I know you're busy, but I haven't received those. Instead of accusing, you sent me last week. I was expecting them. I'm hopeful that we can see them soon. Show some appreciation. So a reader sentiment. I'm appreciating your hard work. I know that you're doing a lot of other things. Looking forward to a prompt response. And so you're seeing it use a lot more diplomatic and nice language there. And then being specific, I'm kind of just yelling at him about this thing that I need, but I'm not really giving him details as to why, or when do I need that. Please have that by 2 p.m. on a Friday. Let me know if there's issues or assistance or what roadblocks are in place in order to apply this. And so kind of interesting. And then, this is actually a new button here to apply these suggestions. And so we'll see how that works. Oh, wow. This is, that's why literally this is the magic of Copilot. That button, I do not believe was there last week. I think this is a new update to Copilot. Previously, I would have to rewrite those manually, but now you can see it's rewritten that very succinctly. That looks great. So I'm going to go ahead and replace that. And then what I can do as well is maybe, draft an email. And I want to show you something about the drafting of it. So this, again, can draft it. So send Jono an email expressing that I need those TPS reports immediately. You can see there that it's generated. But here's the feature I wanted to show you. This is where I really think we're going to see a lot of ground that we gain here in our communications. Make it shorter, longer, again, formal, direct, casual. The poems are, pretty entertaining from time to time. I'll even click just to kind of show you what you can see there, being a little bit more jovial. These are great for, shouting out your colleagues, celebrating somebody that's done something correct. Kind of fun to put together that poem. But the key feature that will be coming soon, Microsoft has confirmed this in Q1 of 2025, make it sound like me. So what that means is that, yes, Copilot does have access to all of your Teams messages and your emails. That includes the ones that you've sent. So in the same way that your cell phone has maybe predictive texting, it's able to know what word you're very likely to type next in that string of sentences. It's going to start learning your tone. So do I say best regards? Do I say sincerely? Do I say cheers on my email when I sign off? And maybe a little bit doing in the tone of that email. So very, very much looking forward to that feature set coming out. Perfect. And then to continue with the tour here and to keep on time, another huge communication tool that we're using is, of course, Microsoft Teams. We're on Teams call right now. So again, maybe pardon the kind of limited way I'm able to show this just because this is my live environment. Here we're looking at Microsoft Teams. I am in dark mode there, so if yours maybe looks a bit different. One thing I highly advise is if you've not maybe updated or seen the new version, you can now organize things very clearly in here. So your chats, your channels, your teams. Spend a few minutes organizing those, and kind of a digital spring cleaning is well worth your time there. But what you can see here is I've got my project Pangea. So just kind of setting the stage. This is something that is kind of non-real documentation and data there just to show you guys. But as I scroll through there, you can see there's a lot of attachments. There's a lot of activity. I've got 12 people here on my team that are working with it and interacting. Maybe I just got added to this chat, and we've all had that where, even two people are having a conversation and then they plus one and throw you into it. And all of a sudden you're doing exactly what I'm doing. You're scrolling to the top, trying to fiddle through and figure out what's going on. Let's have Copilot help out with that. So we'll maybe do, highlights from the past 30 days. We'll see if anybody's presented anything. And, oh, that's great. Okay. So it looks like Josh, Andy, and myself have discussed certain things here with this project Pangea. There's even key takeaways that have been expressed in there. Oh yeah, I do remember sharing that document about Dr. Ellie. So where was that again? And so I can click on that, and that'll take me right to it. And then I can kind of read the context around why that was shared, rather than potentially coming over, to the shared documents. And again, these sprawl out of control very quickly if there's a lot of communication. That's where Copilot can help. And then kind of last but certainly not least is the meeting summary feature. And so that's something that, if we had Copilot enabled and recording this call, it would be able to go through a lot of different action items, things that I've talked about and then expressed are important. And then as well, giving calls to action or tasks to complete by the end of the call. So a lot of different ways of going about that. And then, last but not least, before I pull into maybe one more slide before we wrap things up, is I did want to show you how this works on the internet. So that's where most of us maybe started out with our AI journey. Of course, Copilot does work on your web browser. So what you're looking at here is, my Microsoft account. You can see I'm signed in my Microsoft user. Here is maybe the number one and maybe undersold reason for using Copilot. This is the enterprise data protection. Even though I've got the web tab enabled and I'm going to send a prompt out to the World Wide Web and collect information from XYZ website of whatever that language model wants to find, I know that my data is safe. I know that my employees' data are safe. Some of you may be using this technology internally on security in a non-AI fashion, things like DLP or data loss prevention. It will inherit all of those. Sensitivity labels are another big one as well. So being able to mark a certain document as public, mark it maybe just for my department and only people on my team can see that. Or, hey, this is a mission critical document. It's HR or it's finances. We're marking this confidential and nobody gets to look at this document. Copilot will inherit those security policies and prevent me from, hopefully it would be accidental, but that's where it's going to come from is ourselves and our users so excited about AI that maybe we're putting stuff out there that shouldn't be out there. Copilot is going to protect against that, and we're certainly not training the models. And so again, this is all a part of that closed AI that I had spoke about as well. So I believe that probably is good there. I just want to pop through one quick slide there and then just give a few minutes for maybe just some closing remarks. So I appreciate everybody hanging on there today. But where do we go from here? Where is there a roadmap? What does the roadmap kind of look like? Is maybe the last conversation I'll have with you here today. Here's kind of a basic one we've architected with a couple of points. Again, I won't go through this all exclusively. I can certainly send you guys all a copy of today's slides as well if you'd like to look over some of this stuff in more detail or share this with maybe some team members that weren't on today's call. But step one is complete. You guys made it. This is understanding what Copilot is. And hopefully today that, you guys have been on here for 55 minutes, you know a little bit more and you can confidently understand what Microsoft is trying to do with the AI. And again, having confidence in protecting things from the security component. But kind of 2 and 3 here, I'll merge together. This is where would be your next steps here. And so this would be reaching out to the Labyrinth team, and we'll have their contact details on the screen here shortly. But reaching out to them and not just talking about AI, but also making sure that AI is ready for your data, or maybe vice versa, your data is ready for the AI. The last thing we want to have happen is maybe a new employee come into the business, and then all of a sudden they've got access to your HR documentation and your financial documents that certainly should be restricted down. And so that's making sure that our data is nice and secure, nice and kind of tidy from a hygiene perspective. And then as well, here's where kind of Labyrinth and the team can assist in okay, how do I really get started with a pilot program and a couple of users? Who are the best champions within my business, and in order to maybe test this out a little bit further, because I saw some cool things that Tom was demonstrating, and I'd like to try those out myself in my inbox and such. It has to make sense economically, of course. We talked about this, and so verifying that value, not just from a pure kind of pound for pound time saved aspect, which certainly comes in. Again, that's the low hanging fruit. But looking at things over time, like a knowledge base, those really big, complex prompts, those are indicators of success. If you're seeing yourself or your team members not create them from yourself, but sharing those with the wider team as well. Additional check-ins as well, setting up some time on, either a bi-weekly or a monthly kind of chat just to Labyrinth and call them up and say, here's the good, the bad, and the ugly of how my AI journey is going. That kind of, learning curve, again, just like using a smartphone, just like using a search engine, it's going to take a little bit, but you don't have to go through that alone. And then ultimately is, looking at additional workloads. We know that we showed a lot of simple tasks here today, but what I'd like to, preface there beginning is that, Copilot Studios is where I'm seeing some of the more advanced businesses start to really kind of sink their teeth into. They're really starting to say, oh, I didn't know I could connect all these third-party data sources, documentation, knowledge base, certain bespoke software that I'm using from my industry that's not Microsoft. Can I leverage that in Copilot? And again, wrap that security around that information while I do it. And so that's really the exciting part after kind of getting, comfortable here with the ones here. Last but not least, before I turn you back over to the team, as you can see, there's a little asterisk on the bottom, and it's that secure readiness with the restricted pilot program. The AI does not have to be an on-off switch of all of your data in your SharePoint. There's a rollout where it's called restricted pilot program. What that means is we essentially whitelist your SharePoint sites. So we would deny all SharePoint sites when it's enabled, and then you would tell kind of which SharePoint sites are good to go. All of my Copilot users should have access to things like my marketing or my brand assets or things that are more or less publicly available within your company. And then as you're maybe cleaning up some of those maybe older SharePoint sites, labeling certain data, getting rid of things that don't need to be in there, we can enable those sites site by site with that restricted program. So just kind of, a staged approach to releasing that. Again, makes the AI more popular. But again, I've waffled on just a minute too long, so I will go ahead and turn it back over to the Labyrinth team. So over to you guys.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you, Tom. Did you actually breathe during that? I'm not quite sure. One thing that struck me during that presentation was that there is an element of urgency to this. Going back to the iPhone example again, I think one of the reasons why we're so comfortable with these now is because we've lived with them for 15 years. They started off as phones, then a camera was added, then a voice recorder was added, then apps were added, and it's been an iterative process that we've learned as we've gone along. And I think we've seen how fast AI is developing and what you can do with it already. You saw Tom there create a good-looking PowerPoint presentation in about 3 minutes from nothing, absolutely nothing. And if we don't adopt this technology now, we will be left behind. And I think that's where there is a certain urgency to this. We are very limited on time for questions. I know that there are a couple. I'm going to hand over to Matt just to finish off and talk about any next steps.
Thanks, David. Thanks, Tom. Unfortunately, we don't have time for many questions, but in terms of how much does Copilot cost, it was announced last week that Copilot for 365 will finally be available as a monthly subscription from the 1st of December. And previously you had to pay for the year in advance. So that'll be available at £25 per user per month from the 1st of December. And as of the 1st of November, there's also a slight non-profit discount available. I know we've got some of our non-profit clients on the webinar today. So in terms of next steps, if you'd like to book a one-to-one consultation with Tom and I to discuss scenarios in your business and how AI can help you, then please do reach out to me. There's no cost at all for that meeting, and no push to sign up for any services with us afterwards. So really do take advantage of that. A little bit about us. We've been supporting SMBs with their IT in London and around the UK for over 20 years now. We can help you with implementing Copilot or for 365 or developing your own custom Copilot agents. using Copilot Studio with your own knowledge sources, and also exploring other sector-specific AI platforms that may be able to help you. So if you would like to book in a consultation to discuss that with Tom and I in more detail, then please do reach out to me. My email address is up on the screen now. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn. And if you're one of our existing clients on the call, then again, you've already got my contact details. So thank you very much, everybody, for attending. The webinar has been recorded, and we'll share the recording with you after the meeting. So if you've got anyone else in the team that would like to view the recording, then you'll be able to share it with them. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're planning another webinar for the end of January on email security, and we hope to see many of you then. But for now, do get in touch with Matt. We've only scratched the surface today, and we'd love to show you a lot more. Thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it.